We're not going to move.
Good evening. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the town of Newcastle. Today is September 29th, 2021.
First thing on our agenda is an extension request from the LaSalle. First extension for the approval that we made for 48 Quaker Bridge Road.
Good evening.
Are the LaSalles here on?
Yes,
Okay.
good evening. This is Annie LaSala.
Hi. Could you just explain to us the reason for the extension?
Yes, of course. We started this project before COVID and then had the delays that everybody experienced throughout COVID. I also had COVID, so we went through a couple of different things, and now we're about, I would say, about 3 months away from finishing everything. We're actually having our final electrical inspection on Friday, and we may be done sooner than 3 months, but I figured just to give us a little bit of a buffer, perhaps asking for a 3-month extension would be appropriate.
So 3 months is comfortable for you?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move we give a 3-month, give the LaSalles a 3-month extension.
I'll second.
Yes, thank you.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
In favor?
Anthony Giardina,
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Aye.
Howard Dubs,
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the Mount Kisco Country Club.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, so I am, I guess we're up here, so I'm John Sullivan. I'm the architect and president of Sullivan Architecture. Here tonight representing the Mount Kisco Country Club. I see also on the call is a couple of members of our Board of Governors. And I don't see my associate on the call here with me right at the moment, but Jackie, if you happen to see on all of these, Carl Ackerman, maybe you can let him in.
Yeah, they're ready for you. Okay.
Okay, so we're obviously appearing before the board here tonight to seek your acceptance and approval. The club would like to construct an additional paddle tennis court. One court adjacent to their 2 existing paddle tennis courts that are on the site. Obviously, this is not necessarily a large impact on the property before you because of the requirements as a special use permit as a golf course in a residential zone. And I know that the board is probably familiar with the club and some of our previous applications. So this one appears to be at least a rather simple, straightforward one. And we've met with the staff. Obviously, you have a substantial amount of drawings, both from our site engineer, who is Michael Stein with Hudson Engineering, who I see the mic is on the call here as well, in case there are any questions regarding this site engineering. But in some ways, while we're adding a surface here, a small structure, if you would, in that way, we're actually improving the site because we're eliminating a large area of existing paved surface in favor of a court that is elevated with grading conditions under it, as well as adding some landscape buffers around it. So, essentially, this is simply the application before you, and if you frankly have any questions about it, I'd be happy to have Mike address any engineering questions that you may have. But that's really what we're here for right now.
So if I'm correct, and it was a little difficult to hear you, the maintenance shed comes down and the paddle tennis court goes up in its place?
Yes. I guess I don't see that we have the benefit here of a plan up, unless Mike, if we can ask Jackie, if you want to share the screen, that maybe we can put up a plan that we can look at with everyone, that would be helpful. I don't have access to that.
I can put up our plan if that helps.
Yeah, great. That'd be great, Mike, thank you. So you can see just quickly from Mike's plan here, as that what we have here is that to the left, you can see that there are, as is identified, there are 2 elevated paddle tennis courts. And we're installing a 3rd one to the right of those. That space currently where that court is shown is blacktop, is paved. It's part of the area that the maintenance facilities use to just park equipment and to store material, etc. So we'll be removing that in favor of the court. And there is, to the right of that, there's a shed that they use now that will be removed. And there's a landscape buffer on the right side of this court that will help visually separate the courts from the area where the maintenance facilities operate.
John, I'm here now if you want me to share. It's up to you.
Okay. Mike's got his plan up here, so that's fine, Carl, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can see this plan here. There are other drawings of this, and obviously this does not involve any kind of building structures or anything in the way of additional buildings. The court is added, it does not require, it's not about increasing membership to the club. Frankly, I guess, and I'm not one, although I'm a member of the club a long time, member there as well as serving as their architect, but I don't play paddle tennis, but I understand that from the membership, the desire to add this here is in great demand. And it's become a very highly, I guess, attractive sport, particularly in the winter. And that's when it's played. I guess that along with pickleball have become like the new adventures for clubs and for activities. So in numbers of members that now play this game, need this additional 3rd court, and that's why we're here.
What months of the year will these courts be in use?
You know, I don't believe that they're used during the summer months at all. If they are, it might be early in the morning. But as I said, predominantly, I would say they would be used between November and the end of April.
You would use them in the summer months for pickleball.
No. We actually use a tennis court. The club fortunately has 5 tennis courts. I think you're probably familiar with a previous application that was before you that for closing 2 of those. But one of the courts has been multi-striped, if you would, for pickleball. So no, these wouldn't be used for these.
So I'm sorry, so your application is for 12 months of the year in terms of the special use permit?
No, I mean, I would say so, simply because it's physically there. But as I said earlier, this game is predominantly played at night in cold weather. Maybe early mornings, let's say a Saturday or Sunday morning in January, February, they might play. But it's a cold weather game, it's a fast game, so that's when it's used.
Okay, give me a second. Sabrina, did you want to be heard on this?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the board. How are you tonight?
Good, thank you.
I just wanted to kind of set the foundation for you. So, because I'm not sure if it was done before I was able to join, there was some technical difficulties. But the Mount Kisco Country Club is looking to amend their special exception use permit to allow addition of a third paddle tennis court. The club's permit right now exists all year round. Their special use permit is in place. What we need to do is define the activities of the paddle tennis courts for this amendment. And so one of the things that they had said in their application, they talked about the hours of operation of the club. When we looked at the dome, we had specific hours of limiting, I think it was 10 p.m. was the sunset for any activity under the dome. And, we would define this amendment in that same vein. So John, I'm not remembering right now, but I do think you put in the hours of operation, 7 to 10 p.m., very similar to what the dome's hours of operation are. And it would be a matter of, they'll be used, we would have to define the seasonality of their use, whether it is from the summer through winter, whether it's all year round. Those are the characteristics that you'll need to define as part of the special use permit.
Yeah, I understand, Sabrina, and you're right. If we want to set the time of these to be, let's say, no later than 10 p.m., I believe that that's fine. I don't believe people are out here playing at 11 o'clock at night. So that's perfectly fine. I can't speak to it whether it's seasonal. As I said earlier, I know the game is basically played seasonally. And golf is basically a seasonal game as well, in good weather. This is traditionally a seasonal sport in cold weather. So does that mean that in the middle of the summer on a Saturday evening, somebody at 8 o'clock at night doesn't want to come out and have a paddle game with someone? Okay, but I'll just share with all of you that if we want to set certain time parameters on it, and particularly a sunset at 10 p.m., then that's perfectly acceptable.
I also, John, here's the thing. It's about balancing your activity with your surrounding neighborhood, right? And so, 10 p.m. under the dome, it was an enclosed structure. It wasn't exposed to kind of anybody who could hear it. The sound was contained inside the dome. So just in thinking about that, I think it's important for the board to understand what your sport needs versus how we can balance that with activity that occurs today and the surrounding environment. So it's really understanding what do you need. Of course nobody's out there at 11 p.m. playing tennis. They're not out there now at 11 p.m. playing tennis. The question is, with the popularity of your sport, do you see it changing? And, this is not an indoor structure that you're proposing, it is outdoor. So if it is played in the winter months, is it played when there's snow on the ground and you shovel the courts, or, I don't know, how the sport works and how you manage the sport. But I think that is essential for the board to understand those measures, so that they can understand, again, it's introducing activity that otherwise wouldn't be present on the site. And again, you are a special use permit in a neighborhood. It is part of the operation of your club, but really understanding what you need versus how we can accommodate, in the location that you're proposing. I mean, because, honestly, and for the board's information, the location that it is being proposed in is very much tucked behind existing structures. It's adjacent to the existing two courts. And they have some planting around the edge of it and a fence for privacy reasons. So in regards to meeting the planning standards, they meet setbacks, they're actually reducing their coverage. So it's really more of the soft.
Stop it, get out of here, both of you.
It's really the soft elements of the application that the board needs to define as part of the special use permit amendment.
Can I ask a couple
Well
of
said
questions?
across all. You're right about that. Obviously, you clarified that there are two existing courts there today that are used. I'm sure that I'm not familiar with it, but maybe all of you are, maybe you are, Sabrina, that we probably have some limits to when play is permitted on those two courts today. We're adding an additional court, as we looked at, right, adjacent to two existing. Everything you said is correct about how it's shielded, how it's buffered from around there, how we're helping with the site in a way by reducing coverage. So as far as the activity, yeah, it's predominantly, as I said, a winter game. Predominantly played, let's call it between November and May 1st, and predominantly played in the evening. And yes, you know what? You touched on something. Maybe you know, Sabrina, I don't know. But I know that there are guys that will go out there, they will shovel the snow off the court and play the game because you want to play in cold weather. Apparently, it's a very rigorous game. So that's what it's about. And if we want to set certain times of the year or certain times of when it lights out, then fine. And as I said earlier, we could do that.
I have a couple of things I'd like to get straight in my mind about this whole thing. You have two existing paddle tennis courts that I assume are governed under certain parameters in your currently existing special use permit. It would seem to me that it would be just a simple matter to incorporate the third court into the same two existing courts and keep the parameters the same, since we have had no objections or complaints that I know of from the neighborhood with the existing courts. So that doesn't seem like a problem to me. The other thoughts I had were with the removal of the blacktop area to install this new court, you are going to give us a little increase in permeable surface. But what's going to happen to the equipment that's currently parked on that blacktop area? Are you going to put a new blacktop area somewhere else, or are they going to be relocated to an area where it will be possibly indoors and not be a problem with coverage on your property? So that's a question of mine to answer. And then I'm going to give you both questions at once, and you can answer them as you choose. The other question I had was with the lighting. I see that you're putting all new lights in. And apparently they meet the town code for lighting, but I would be interested to find out, if not tonight, whenever, if there's been any complaints in the neighborhood about the lighting, and if this is a good time to address those complaints and get those issues resolved. Other than that, I don't have anything else that I'm interested in that area.
All right, let me try a little bit of that. Yeah, there is not a play on the table to add more hard surface area to park equipment. Frankly, there's really not equipment parked there. It's an old paved area that I call them the grounds crew, but obviously our site superintendents use to maybe park a vehicle, maybe they might store a snow plow, for example, in that area. It's not really an active and important spot for us to store equipment. So we're not adding or relocating this area somewhere else. Frankly, as an aside to all this, we are before the village of Mount Kisco to construct a small storage building way out on the golf course, obviously in Mount Kisco, to help store certain lawn equipment out there that does not need to be transferred back and forth constantly. So we are in the process of helping that. But to answer that question, no, there's not another area that will be stored. The lights, obviously, as we discussed, the game is played at night. The game needs lights. It's not played during the day predominantly. So the lights are very much downlit. You can see from the documents that we provided by the paddle tennis court installer and contractor that the lights meet the coverage, the foot candles on the ground. Now, obviously, are improving those things all the time. I don't think that we're aware of any issues with anyone filing a complaint about the courts or the lights. As Sabrina mentioned a few minutes ago, for the most part, they're very much shielded behind or in between a couple of buildings that are on the site. So they're really, it's really not noticed that much, quite honestly.
Thank you. One other thing, I know when you leave us, you need to go to the planning board for certain Am I correct in that, Eric?
Yes, it'll have to be a referral to the planning board
So-
and the ARB.
Will the planning board need an approval from us? I don't know how this works, or do they go to the planning board and then come back to us
No, the planning-
for approval? Or-
If it's determined tonight, if the director of planning is determined and the engineering, or the town engineer has determined the plans are sufficiently advanced, there's sufficient information, the board could refer the matter to the planning board and the ARB tonight. They'll then make recommendations to you regarding what improvements or changes they're proposing. But the ultimate determination is up to this.
So they're gonna be back to us again?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
not sure,
it's a referral.
right, I'm not sure, Sabrina, is any site plan approval required for this?
No, there's no site plan. This is an amendment to their special use permit. There's a plan that will be referenced as part of the special use permit amendment, as part of that resolution. The town code requires, as a special use permit amendment, that it be referred to the Architectural Review Board and the Planning Board for review and comment. Those comments come back to your board, and you can determine whether or not you want to incorporate any of their comments into your approval or not.
So in order to expedite matters and not just spin our wheels here tonight, if the staff that is currently reviewing the site work and the engineering specs is happy with what they see, then I think we should just cut to the chase and make a referral to the planning board rather than take all everybody's time, because they're coming back to us anyway. So unless somebody has something else to say, or our consultants and staff have anything to put into it, I'm ready, willing, and able to entertain a motion to refer them to the planning board.
I believe the town engineer wanted to make a quick statement on this.
I don't want to cut him out, then we definitely want to hear him.
Mr. Cioli?
Well, thank you, Thomas. Good evening, Chairman and members of the zoning board. I reviewed the plans, submitted plans. I generally don't prepare a memo unless I need something, but the plans I have reviewed are acceptable and complete. And also too, based on the type of construction they're having here with the paddle tennis, that is considered a pervious surface, and therefore it does not need any type of stormwater improvement measures as per Chapter 108A. So I find the plans acceptable and fine to move forward on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to address one other comment Mr. Giordano made, we'll review the prior approval resolutions. I'm not sure there is any parameters relating to the paddle courts in the prior resolutions that was specifically put in. We'll have to review those, but when it comes back to you, we'll have that information for the board as well. So.
That's good.
Could I just come back to Mr. Sullivan for a second? In your estimation, the courts are most visible to, is it neighbors on Taylor Road or Annandale Road or North Bedford Road?
Well, its closest proximity is to Taylor Road. The only neighbors that really have any visual connection to the courts are those that are right at the corner of Taylor Road when you come off of 117. And they're a distance away, and they're also very shielded by the main maintenance facility building. As we said earlier, if we came back to the plan, but you would see that the courts are located in a very enclave, in an enclosed area by 3 buildings that are basically on our site.
Jack,
They
do
really-
you have a site plan you can put up?
Yeah, do we have a site plan, Carl?
Yeah,
or Mike,
John,
when you-
I can put up also graphics that I have if the board would like to see.
I think that would be
Sure.
helpful.
Yeah, Carl, can you do that? Thank you. This is Carl Ackerman, who's my associate with my firm.
You can see here that by this distance diagram, this red rectangle here is the added court, and the 2 are existing. There is a large stand of trees that runs behind here. So from across the course, you should not be able to see these courts, maybe just a very faint glow of light. I'm going to go to the next screen. This is from the front entrance of the club. Looking straight through the back of the parking lot is the court, and you cannot see anything. The next image, this is when you're at the clubhouse. There's one court that sticks out from the side of the building that is not visible from the street. And this is the image along the back of that building. This is the structure that's going to be removed. The truck obviously doesn't need to be there, and this is the location of the court. And the next slide is basically the same image, and then you can see the trees here on the right-hand side, the standard trees, and I'm gonna go through the slides so we don't take the board's time. This is an image of the adjacent neighbor to the north. It's pretty distant away. This is a winter shot. That's why we are proposing a new buffer with some trees to screen this adjacent neighbor. This is from North Bedford Road. Directly in the middle of the screen, you can see this is the one peekaboo where you can see out onto the course. This area is a major standard trees that you would not be able to see from North Bedford Road. And then going back from Annandale, the other end of the course over by the club's pool, looking back, that same standard trees, there also is a hill there. You cannot even see the clubhouse in the background, and this court would be behind that same standard trees. And I can go back to a site plan at the board. And that's basically a summary of the visuals.
If you'd like, I can put up a bird's eye view if that would help.
Sure.
So right in this area is where the courts are, right where close to where that red pin is. That was the house he was referencing over to the right-hand side.
How often are the courts played on currently at night?
You know, I believe that it's a pretty active, it's become a very active sport, as I said earlier. And again, it's predominantly played at night and in the winter, when the rest of the club is, for the most part, shut down.
Could you explain? I'm
Is
sorry.
the lighting on the court directed down?
Yes, the fixtures do face down. We have submitted lighting calculations and fixture cuts, but they are directed straight down.
And they're not that tall, right, Carl? How high are they above?
They're about 15 feet from grade.
Right.
And there's two courts that are currently there with very similar lighting. It's all down lighting with shrouds on them.
Tom, have you examined the lighting to make sure it complies with the town's code?
Have I been to the site? No, sir.
I think Tommy wanted to know if the lights that were spec'd meet town code.
Yes, they do. They're 2700 Kelvin.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any additional accommodations for parking as a result of this additional court?
No, because there's not an increase in membership or use. It's the existing members that use it that play the game. Now, obviously, we've got a pretty substantial parking there, so that, only 4 people play at a time, and maybe around robin. Like one match and then another match, and they go back and forth. So the crowd of people that are here are maybe 4 to 8 people at a time at a court, and that would be like incredibly popular events. So no, there's not an issue. There's certainly not a need to add more parking. As I said earlier, this is not an initiative for more membership or an increase in membership.
At any time, will individuals from other clubs come on to the property to use the courts?
Yes, not unless they're playing match against the Mount Kisco team or group, but not independently, no.
Mr. Chair, you might want to see if any members of the public are here to.
Yes. Carrie, do you have anyone on YouTube or anyone who is in a queue to speak to this matter?
Not now, you might want to ask if anyone is, if they raise their hand. I don't see anyone.
Would anyone on this call who wishes to be heard on this matter, please announce themselves? Is there anyone in the audience here who wishes to be heard on this matter? Okay.
I suggest you leave the public hearing open, you adjourn the public hearing, and then if you're so inclined to adopt a motion to refer to the planning board and ARB.
I would like to inform the board that this is considered a type 2 action in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. So you do not have any further analysis under seeker to conduct for this application.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that the application of Mount Kisco Country Club to add a third paddle tennis court be referred to the planning board and the ARB for review and comment.
I'll second.
And that the public hearing be, remain open at this time.
I'll second that.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
In favor?
Anthony Giardina,
Aye.
Marty Bonaparte,
Hey,
Howard Judd,
Aye.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye.
aye.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you.
Next.
We understand, we've obviously reviewed the process with Sabrina and Bob and other staff members, so thank you for that. We look forward to appearing before the planning board and the ARB. I would just share with all of you that obviously, considering the time of year, here we are at the end of September, that it would be wonderful if we can get past this in the next month or two, so that the court can be erected and be ready for the season. As I said, it's obviously a winter game. But thank you for your help.
We currently meet every month, so we expect to see you again.
Oh, thank you.
John, to help expedite that process, we would need copies of the application for both the ARB and the planning board.
Right. We're on it, Sabrina. Thanks for your help as always.
Okay.
Okay, good. Hey, good night, everybody.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Good night, John. Good
Good night, board. Nice to see you all.
Okay.
night, board.
Thank you.
Next case is 20 Old Road Lane LLC.
Good evening. My name is Michael Serignano. Can the board hear me?
Not very well.
Not very well. All right, I'll fix that. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Oh, much better.
Much better.
Okay, good evening, Michael Serignano. I'm an attorney in Cross River, New York, and I'm the attorney for the principal, Francis Fitzpatrick and Dale Sandali. They own this property at 20 Old Road Lane through a family-owned company, LLC, called 20 Old Road Lane LLC. With us tonight in your boardroom is Patrick Croak, our project architect. So I'm going to just briefly introduce the variance application, and then Patrick can help answer any questions and explain his design here. My clients wish to have more living space, and they're proposing a second floor addition and to make other renovations to this current one-story ranch house that was built in the 1960s. The existing first floor of the living space contains 2,214 square feet. The proposed second floor addition will add 2,917 square feet of living space. According to Health Department records, the existing ranch house contains 4 bedrooms. And after our proposed improvements, if the board grants the variances and we build it out as hoped, the house will remain a 4-bedroom residence. So we're not adding any bedrooms, additional bedrooms. In a moment, as I said, I'll let Patrick Croak describe and show his design of the second floor addition and the other improvements in detail. Now, in order to accomplish our goals or proposed improvements to the house, we need 2 area variances from your board. Jackie, can I have you put up A1 on your screen? Patrick's drawing A1. No, that's the existing conditions. Do you have A1? It's the part of his proposed plans.
We have it in front of us,
Okay.
so
All
while
right.
Jackie's looking for it, maybe you could just speak to it.
Yeah, so let me keep going. So first, the building department has determined that we need a minor side yard variance of 5 feet, as 35 feet is, okay, great. 35 feet is required in this R1A district, and our side yard setback will be 30 feet. So this is the driveway coming in off of Old Road Lane, and we have a side yard setback issue in this area where my arrow is. This 5-yard setback variance is on the driveway side, and it's not substantial, obviously. We are, in fact, removing an existing deck in this area, and it has been located in that same side yard setback since the deck was built, or the house was built, and we're replacing it with a new deck that is actually a little further away from the side lot line. So in that respect, we are somewhat reducing nonconformity. So that's the first variance of 30 feet instead of 35 as required, a 5-yard variance. The building department has also referred us to your board for a floor area ratio variance of 1,016.5 square feet. Based on our total lot area of 45,215 square feet, we are allowed as of right 6,098 square feet of floor area. Our proposed second floor addition and the other improvements, which we'll describe in a minute, will bring us to a total of 7,114.5 square feet. So although our 1,016.5 square foot FAR variance is not insubstantial, the additional living space we're seeking to construct and add on is not going to adversely impact any nearby homes. We are, for the most part, building up above the existing 1-story ranch. And as Patrick will describe in a minute, our only bump out is here on the westerly side of the house, and it's well outside of all applicable setbacks. So Jackie, I think you have a bunch of photographs. I'll go through them very quickly just so the board can see how well screened this house is from neighbors. If you could put those up quickly and we'll run right through them. These photos will show that neither our minor side yard setback variance or our FAR variance will produce any undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or cause any detriment to nearby properties. So here we're looking south towards the end of Old Road Lane, and that red car is that parked at the driveway entrance to our property, the one that we're asking the variances for. Next slide. Whoops, go back. Yeah, that's a closer up. Now you can see the house in the distance. Again, the red car is at the head of our driveway, and you can see the ranch house in the distance. Next one. Okay, so this area is actually showing uh, where the paper road of the undeveloped portion of Old Road Lane is, and also part of our yard. Next slide. Yes, and now this is taken from just outside the house, looking out towards the end of the driveway and the paper road. And up on that hill is a neighbor's home, which is barely visible. And so I don't think there's going to be any impact on that neighbor, certainly. Next slide. Okay, so now we're on the property. You can see the driveway going down the left side of the house, and that's the ranch. And what's important about this is it shows you that the house sits in kind of a hollow. Sits down below, has a full basement for a good portion of the rear and side of the house, but it sits in a bit of a hollow. The first floor level, the current living space is basically at the grade of the driveway. That's because the driveway connects to a garage, obviously. And so it again, and Patrick will show you some aerials later, that even when we add a second story, because we're in a hollow, our roof line is not going to be any higher than any nearby homes. In fact, we're going to still be lower than the nearby homes. Next slide, please. Okay. Again, this is the paper section of the paper road, undeveloped part of Old Road Lane. Next slide. Trying to give you, okay, this is a closer of the existing ranch. The house is a little awkwardly positioned when it was built. This is actually the rear of the house, although it faces out towards Old Road Lane. But this is the rear, and that's a rear deck and a rear patio. And this is where that bump out is going to be built. Next slide. That's the existing garage. Next slide. And that's the back of the, well, that's actually, now we're getting to the front of the house, or the front entrance of the house. And there is the front entrance. Now we're looking down towards Almac Road. That's Almac Road is the road down below. This is taken from standing outside of the front of the house looking down. So again, there's a lot of natural screening on this visual. Next slide. And this is taken from Almac Road looking up at the front of the ranch house, and it's barely visible. There's a pretty good slope there, and there's another visual of the slope from Almac Road. Next slide. This is now we're getting around the side of the house, looking again towards the paper road in the distance. It's all wooded. So we have a nice natural wooded screening surrounding the house on virtually, well, on certainly three sides. Again, that's another shot of the what's technically the rear yard, but it's showing the paper road area and the lawn. Next. Okay, so now we're at the side of the house, or the corner of the house. This is the southerly side. You can see that it is a full basement for this, a portion of this, and as we get to the rear, the existing rear of the house, you'll see it a little more. Next slide. And there's, again, another shot of the rear close up, and there's a full basement there. Next slide. And all right, so now we pull away and show you from the bottom of the slope, basically standing in the paper road of Old Road Lane, taking a picture of the house as it sits in that hollow. So I think showing these photos, this is an aerial, which I'll let Patrick Croak deal with and make the comparison to other roof lines. I'd just like to point out a few more things, and I'm going to turn it over to Patrick. Our proposed variances will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. No wetlands or wetland buffers will be disturbed. No steep slopes will be impacted. The existing wooded areas that we've shown you in the photographs, the trees and understory around the west, south, and east perimeter of the property will remain undisturbed. As I mentioned earlier, the new roof line of our home will not exceed the roof line of the nearest house, which is located at 14 Old Road Lane, and it happens to be my client's current residence. 20 Old Road Lane is their planned retirement home, and if you've looked at the plans, you'll see that the master bedroom is on the first floor, and so they want to retire next door, and so they currently reside at 14 Old Road Lane. So this conformity or consistency of roof lines, if you will, results because the house sits in that hollow that I've shown you on the photographs. The benefit sought by my clients cannot be achieved by other feasible methods other than the two area variances we are requesting. Patrick will describe those benefits and take you through Dale and Francis's proposed use of the reconfigured basement and first floor and the entire new second floor. Lastly, our need for these two area variances, like most variances, could be deemed to be self-created. However, as you well know, self-created difficulty is not a bar to the granting of an area variance. It's just one relevant factor for your board to consider. So I'm going to turn this over to Patrick now and just conclude with when the significant benefits to my clients of having this additional living space and improving this outdated 60s ranch house are weighed against any possible detriment to the health, safety, or welfare of the neighborhood or community, we believe your board will find that one, there will be no detrimental impact on the neighboring homes, and two, that the balancing test that you and every zoning board has to perform weighs decidedly in favor of granting the variances. So with that, I'd ask Patrick to show his, I think, are beautifully done plans and answer any technical questions the board may have. Thank you.
Good evening, Patrick Rowe. Jackie can bring up the existing conditions plans. We'll start with that. Sure. This is the existing basement plan. The existing basement has a playroom, a little bar area, 2 bedrooms, an office space, and storage and mechanical rooms. The space at the bottom right corner is under the garage, which is at the first floor level. Go next. Scroll down to the next plan. All right. This is the existing first floor plan. First floor has a small kitchen in the upper right corner. There's a dining and entry space below that between the kitchen and the garage. To the left of that, next to the stair, is the main entrance to the house, which Michael pointed out is on the 128 side rather than the Old Road Lane side. At the left end of the house, there are actually 3 bedrooms, some closets, some dressing areas. The plan of the existing actually shows and works out to 5 bedrooms. What we found from the health department is that the approved septic system is 4 bedrooms, so we are reverting to a 4-bedroom house for the new, not expanding it to have 5 bedrooms, which is what the current arrangement allows in the existing house. Can you go to the new plans.
Are the new bedrooms intended for grandchildren or others?
Well, Dale and Francis have 3 adult children. Well, one's in college. I suppose that still makes her an adult. They hope that certainly there'll be space for grandchildren to visit, but they're going to hang on to the house next door at number 14 with the hopes that one of their children may want to live near their parents, as strange as that may sound.
Can we go to the site plan? First page.
Can you show us the plan that has the second floor addition?
Yes, I'd just like to point out on the site plan here, Michael touched on it quickly. There are 3 areas of addition to the house. The area at the top of the page is an addition with a footprint of 422 square feet that will house a kitchen on the first floor and a bedroom on the second floor. The small rectangular hatched area to the right side is a second floor addition that overhangs the new entrance at the first floor, so it provides cover to the front door. And then the small hatched area at the bottom where the existing entrance is, that is currently a roofed area. It will be incorporated into the first floor, so that's only about 70 square feet that's being removed as changed from roofed exterior space to interior space. You can go to the third sheet, A3, with the first floor plan. So this is the first floor plan. At the left side of the plan is where the existing driveway comes in. You can see the existing garage at the bottom of the plan. The new entrance comes in at the center of that right side of the house. The entrance comes in, there's a mudroom between the foyer and the garage. To the upper section of the page, there's the kitchen addition. There's a dining room between the foyer and the addition, and then a large living room with the existing fireplace at the center of the plan. The space to the left side of the plan is a new master bedroom suite. As Michael had mentioned, this is intended as a retirement home, so we're providing for full living facilities at the main first level. We've relocated the stair to the second floor to the space where the old entrance was. So there's a stair there that goes from the basement to the first floor to the second floor. Can we go to the second floor addition? The second floor is completely new. It's a 1-story ranch house now. With this addition, it becomes a 2-story home. The spaces along the right side of the plan are the 3 new bedrooms. There's a dance studio over the existing garage space. And at the left end of the plan is a home office for Mrs. Sandali, along with some storage and a gallery for her private collection. She's been a collector for many years, and this will allow her a space to display the many wonderful things that she's collected. We go back down to the basement. No, not the other direction. The basement functions very much as it does now. It's family space, recreation space, a TV room, a game room, storage, mechanical space, and then the space at the left end of the basement level is a home office for Mr. Fitzpatrick. Both Mr. Fitzpatrick and Ms. Sandali work from home quite often. They need an adequate home office to perform their work, along with storage for files and other things. There's also a small exercise room below that. So if we can go to the elevations. So just zoom out a little bit, please. So the elevation on the top is the side of the house that faces Route 128. The garage is the left portion. The dance studio is the piece over the garage with the windows. At the left end of the house is master baths and closets on the lower level, and storage space for Mrs. Sandali's office and collection on the second floor. The elevation at the bottom of the page is the south end of, not too far.
Sorry.
Flips quickly.
It does.
At the bottom of the page is the, actually showing,
It's the bottom right, the west.
I don't know what's going on. We've got two copies of the same picture on right now. Okay, that's fine. The elevation at the bottom of the page is the south side. Some Mrs. Sindali's office on the second floor, master's bedroom suite on the first floor, Mr. Fitzpatrick's office and exercise room at the basement level. To the left end of that elevation is the kitchen addition. Kitchen addition has a deck around it. It looks down onto the existing terrace that you saw in some of the photographs to provide an indoor-outdoor family summer entertaining space. Next elevations.
I don't know why it's split like that.
Yeah, it's not removing that one. So this, the elevation that you see, let me just go down a little bit, it's not removing that first one. Not the other way. The other way a little bit.
Let me go out of there and go back in. Let me see if that helps.
Well, just let me talk about the exterior a little bit. If you remember from the photographs, from the colored elevations, everything's shown in a wood tone. The intention is to do a wood-colored siding, a darker, maybe metal roof, something that's going to blend into the landscape, blend into the existing trees, to make this less visible to the neighbors, less visible in general, something that's more natural in feel, color, and material. We're proposing a stone veneer on the lower portions of the facades, which show on this side and the south elevation. The approximately a little bit more than 1/2 of the basement is completely underground, so you don't see it. The only place you do see it is here on the south and this elevation. And as if you recall from the photographs, the site does slope down to this. So when you're on Old Road Lane, you're really at the first floor level of the house, maybe even slightly above. So the elevation on the top is the side that faces that patio. The large windows are into the 2-story living room space. The left side is the kitchen bedroom addition, and the right side are the other rooms that we previously described. The elevation at the bottom is the driveway side where you come in. There are some cantilevered roofs that come out to cover the entrance, provide some shelter from inclement weather if you're entering at that point. The windows up above are bedrooms and the dance studio at the left end.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant or his architect?
I just have one question. You're knitting out to 4 bedrooms? I thought you said you had 2 bedrooms in the basement, 3 bedrooms in the first floor?
The original house had 2 bedrooms in the basement, 3 bedrooms on the first floor. The new renovated house has a master suite on the first floor and 3 bedrooms on the new second floor. There are no bedrooms in the basement, no bedrooms anywhere else.
How many bedrooms is your septic approved for?
4 bedrooms.
4,
4?
yes.
And how many bedrooms will there be in the new house?
4. We're not increasing the bedroom count from what is approved by the health department.
The old bedrooms, how will they be treated?
The spaces,
How will they be converted to non-bedrooms?
well, the spaces in the basement will be, one of those spaces is used for Mr. Fitzpatrick's office. The other one is a small exercise room and some storage space adjacent to it. There are no full bathrooms down there. There is no accommodation to make any of those spaces a bedroom.
Will any of those rooms have closets?
No, I don't believe we're showing closets in it, although that is not a criteria from the health department anymore for determination of a bedroom. No, we're not showing closets in any of the basement rooms.
So you're asking for a substantial variance in the FAR. Is there any way you can make it less substantial?
Not and provide the items that the clients are looking for. One of the reasons that the floor area ratio has added up is we are counting the full basement. In most homes, the full basement does not get counted, or we're counting a portion of the basement as per code. In most houses, the basement is completely underground. In this case, because one of the walls allows for a walkout, the basement is counted as part of the FAR. The 2 floors above are well below the allowed FAR.
How much square footage is in the basement?
The
About
basement is 2,100 square feet.
100, yeah. It is a substantial variance, and I said that in my introductory remarks, but it's sometimes, and I say this to zoning boards throughout Westchester and Putnam, sometimes a small variance can have a huge impact on the neighbors or neighborhood, and while a large variance sometimes can have no impact or minimal impact. And I think this is one of those cases where, although it is a large, we concede that FAR variance, it really is going to have no impact. Patrick, can you show the aerial of the roof lines and compare them?
I just asked Jackie if she could pick out the last photograph, or the last 2 photographs. Okay, so this is an overall aerial photograph of the neighborhood. The house with the red pin on it is 20 Old Road Lane. If we can go to the next photograph. So you can see the size of the roof area of 20 Old Road Lane. It's substantially in line with the house above it at 14 Old Road Lane. There will be the small addition to the upper left corner of the existing house, the 420 square feet of footprint. But when we compare that to the house to the left, you can see it's substantially larger in overall roof area relative to 20 Old Road Lane. Now, because they don't have a walkout basement, their basement is not counted. I assume they meet the FAR requirements for that lot. But you can see the size of the house relative to 20 Old Road Lane appears to be quite a bit larger.
So is 2,000 plus feet of the basement actually finished, or is just?
Most of the basement is finished. There are a couple of rooms that are storage rooms. There's a mechanical space, but everything else is finished area.
It's a 1960s house and basement, and it all needs to be updated and modernized. This Google satellite image is also helpful for the board to see how well this house is screened on virtually all sides by natural mature trees.
I'm going to ask, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter?
Well, in considering they're 100% correct in the placement on the property, it sits down in a knoll. I mean, you're not going to see any of it.
I'm sorry, who was that who was speaking?
Oh, God. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the person who was just speaking, could you identify yourself?
Something that I've seen at your office. Yeah, no, you gotta watch that. Huh? Yeah, I'm connected.
Can you put your video on?
Is this the is this the applicant who's speaking to us?
No.
Okay.
Yep, okay.
Is there
Looks
anyone?
like we're gonna be,
Please put yourself on mute. Is there anyone else online who would like to be heard on this matter? No? Okay. Any other questions by the board? No, thank you. I make a motion, we close public hearing.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper.
Favor?
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs. Michael Nolan.
Aye. Would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the application for 20 Old Road Lane LLC for a side yard setback of 5 feet and a floor area ratio of 1,100, and I'm rounding it up to 17 feet, just in case you made a little error here or there, be approved for the following reasons. The applicant is currently in possession of a 1960s one-story house that is in desperate need of improvement and to be brought up to modern specs. The location of the house is in a neighborhood of mainly two-story structures, and this is a one-story structure. They want to add a second story to it to bring it more in line with the neighborhood and also to create a more livable and proper space for them to occupy. The side yard setback is minimal, and the floor area ratio, while the 1,117 feet does sound large, it's only 17% of the allowed, and in my estimation, is not as large as most people would like to think it would be. The granting of the variance will not change the character of the neighborhood, but will in fact bring the house more in character with the neighborhood. There is no other method other than the desired variances to achieve the desired end. The requested area variances are not in my impression to be substantial. There will be no adverse effect to the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood, and although this is a self-created hardship, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, Mike. I've been corrected by my friend here that the variance, the floor area variance is not 1,117 square feet, but 1,017 square feet.
Correct.
It's my error, and I apologize for it, and I correct my motion. This hardship is considered to be a self-created hardship, but the benefit to the applicant will far outweigh any perceived benefits to the neighborhood or to the town. And you will need a foundation survey prior to any framing on your bump out. And if you can start within 6 months and finish within a year, is the time limit okay for you, or do you need other than that?
Starting within 6 months might be a little tight, you still have to go to ARB, and you still have to get.
Well, our 6 months count doesn't begin until you get all your approvals. So after you get your ARB approval, you may have to go to the planning board. We will start counting when you get your building permit.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Giardina, it begins upon the granting of the variance. They have 6 months to get their approvals, is my understanding.
Well,
to get their building permit.
okay, in this case, then I'd like to give them a little more, because I know they're gonna have to.
That's fine if the board thinks it's.
They're going to have to go to 2 boards, and who knows how long, especially with the way things are moving with this pandemic. It's not moving as fast as it used to move.
Whatever
So-
the board thinks is appropriate, but it does start, it will start once the minutes are filed.
Once our minutes are approved, okay. So then I would like to make the motion that you can start within 9 months. And
Thank you.
Finish within a year. Okay?
That's helpful.
But if we start within 9 months, it won't be completed within a year. It's gonna take a year to build.
Yeah, a year after you start.
Okay.
Yeah. You
Sorry.
get started in 9 months, and then you have a year
Misunderstood.
once you get going to finish the project. If you need more than a year, you're gonna have to come back to us for an extension.
Thank you.
I second the application.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper.
In favor?
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
You're welcome.
Next case is Newman.
Hi, we're applying for a variance. Our house doesn't meet the setback to begin with, and we're adding a outdoor kitchen on an existing patio that we're gonna have to do some repair work on. So the variance for the outdoor kitchen and patio is 47 feet. And then when we bought our house, there was a woodshed that didn't meet the setback and that wasn't permitted. So we're also requesting a variance to permit the current shed that's been there, and that variance is for 49 feet.
So the outdoor kitchen will go on the existing patio?
In the space of the existing patio, but we're gonna have to replace the existing patio.
Understood, okay.
When did you purchase the house?
About 4 years ago.
And the woodshed is in use?
Yes, it stores the pool equipment. If we were to take it down, it would leave the pool equipment out in the elements.
Is that different, there are 2 sheds on the property, is that correct?
There are 2 sheds. We recently built a shed for storage because the pool equipment pretty much takes up the whole of the other shed.
Okay.
And we permitted that and have a CO for that.
Okay.
That's on the other side of the property.
Any questions by the board? No. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Is there anyone online that would like to be heard?
No, there's no one hands up.
Okay.
I think actually the town of Newcastle, you guys are my closest neighbors.
Good on the side?
Yeah, good.
You're good. I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Chairman Dennis Cooper.
In favor?
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye.
Would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the application of Erica Newman for the installation of an outdoor kitchen patio with a variance of 47 feet. Front yard variance of 47 feet, and to legalize a woodshed with a front yard variance of 49 feet. The granting of the variance will not create an undesirable hardship, as this is a fairly large lot. I believe it's 2 acres.
3.7.
I'm sorry?
It's over 3 acres.
I'm sorry, over 3 acres. It doesn't appear that there are neighbors that even could see this, the patio. There's no other feasible method other than the variance to achieve the benefit for the applicant. The variance is substantial, but there's no other method to accomplish what the applicant is seeking. There will be no adverse effect to the environment as well. So for those reasons, I move that we approve the application. 6 months to start, 1 year to finish.
I'll second.
Chairman Dennis Cooper.
In favor?
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye. Thank you, you have your variance.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Carlock? Carlock?
Good evening, Town Board. This is Greg Carlock. I am the
Okay.
owner, and Mr. Escalados is representative.
Okay, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Good. I counted 4, and I was told I was 5. That's why I wasn't attentive. Good evening, everyone. After listening to all the other applicants, this is quite simple to explain.
Everybody says that.
Well, Excuse me then, it's, what we have is basically the need to substitute a garage structure that existed on the property, but has since burned. The original survey of the structure showed it to be outside of the property. It actually invaded to the left side and a little bit to the rear. The left side is where the fire house is, and the rear is a business that takes care of children. That's just to set the conditions of the neighbors. There are no residential neighbors being affected at all. What we're proposing and what we need a variance for is, of course, the setback distances required for this garage. We are proposing it to be 3 feet and 5 feet from the rear. So we're certainly, pushing it further inward than what it used to be, but it's the current laws force us legally to have it much, much further in and sideways. So there's a significant amount of variance required. It's a major, if you compare to what is required to what we're proposing, it's certainly a major variance. But the net effect of, if we're lucky to get it approved, I think historically is really the same. We used to, that house always enjoyed a structure, a garage structure in that corner. It's just that in replacing it after it burned, now we have to confront the new regulations, and that's why we need the variance. I'm open to any suggestions. There's really nothing more complicated than that. It's very straightforward.
So you're not building on the previous footprint?
No, we're not. The previous footprint was actually outside of our property.
Right.
We're coming in 3 feet from the side and 5 feet from the rear. And as I said, on the side, it's the fire brigade. And on the rear, I believe it's a private house that takes care of children. It's a daycare center. So we don't have, and it's all, treed and it will be anyway. We will plant in that 5-foot strip. We will plant enough greenery to block the volume of the garage. And the garage, it's a simple gable garage for storage as well as for one vehicle. And it matches the architecture of the house. It's a simple gable with traditional doors and windows.
The garage that burnt down, was that legally non-conforming?
That's a good question. Probably yes, because it pre-existed all the new regulations. It was quite an old structure. So it's
I was asking Tom, our building inspector, that question.
The house and property and garage predated the code, so it is original to the site.
Okay, so the garage that burnt down was legal in its location, and the one that they're replacing is even a little less non-compliant.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
When did the garage burn?
January 28th,
Of this year?
yes.
Yeah. Is there any part of the structure still standing, or is it all gone?
No, it's gone. Everything is gone.
It's all gone, okay.
Even the foundation?
There was no foundation. The garage was built on, I think, just a gravel foundation. When we moved in 30-some years ago, we put railroad ties around the edge of the foundation that supported the structure on the railroad ties. So it essentially floated on the existing gravel.
It's not unusual for the old farmers to do that. It would be a gravel bedding, and then they would have a piece of wood right on top of the gravel. It would be the base plate. And then, of course, it rots. And
Carrie, is there anyone who wishes to be heard on this matter?
No one?
Okay. Any other questions by the board?
No.
Chair,
Yes.
I don't know if it was mentioned, is it on, I believe on the building inspector's notice of denial, there's also a development coverage variance of 185 feet that's required. So I don't know if that applicant mentioned that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is that more or less than currently?
Slightly more. I think it's about 75 square feet more than was previously there.
And that would only be the case because you're adding those 75 feet to the size of the new garage?
No, I think that the total coverage was beyond the limit to begin with and always has been.
That was legally non-conforming, that coverage.
I believe that that's so, yes.
So is the new garage bigger or smaller than the old garage?
It's bigger than the original garage by about 75 square feet. The additional coverage was needed to make sure it could be used as a garage. The old garage was extremely narrow and it was not really quite long enough. We never used it as a garage. We used it as a workshop with storage on the side.
What do you think?
I'm good.
Good. I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
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 I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the car lock application for both side yard, a side yard variance of 7 feet, rear yard variance of 30 feet, and development coverage of 185 square feet for the construction of a garage, replacing one that was damaged in a fire. This is a legal non-conforming site. The garage has expanded in size by approximately 75 feet to accommodate a vehicle where it wasn't able to accommodate a vehicle in the past. There will be no undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. The benefit cannot be sought through other means. The requested variances are substantial, but given the circumstances, I think understandable. There will be no adverse impact on the physical environment, and the alleged difficulty was not self-created. There have been no neighbors who have voiced any objections. For these reasons, I think we should move forward. You'll have 6 months to start and 1 year to complete. There'll be a foundation survey required prior to framing.
I'll second.
Chairman Cooper,
Yes.
Anthony Giardino.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye.
Thank you. You have your variance.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
town board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emilio. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hamster?
Hi, Tim Leonard, architect representing the Hempsters. Jackie, can I share my screen? Hey, everybody. So tonight we're here asking for a couple of front yard variances to construct a 3-car garage with a couple of rooms above it and a side porch. The location of the property is here in the yellow squared off area. It's on Marcourt, which is off Quaker. You can see the property is pretty unique in that it has actually 3 road frontages on the 4 sides of the property. So the area in question that we're going to be working on is back here on the western side facing Marcourt. I'm going to take you to another view, if it's okay, to give you just a good general good idea of what the neighborhood looks like. So coming down Marcourt, you've got some, here's the house, the area in question's back here. There's a lot of excellent foliage that separates properties here, especially along this side of Marcourt, and then over between my client's property and Marcourt on this side. To take you down the road a little bit, this is coming off Quaker, coming up to Ridge. And there's my client's property on the right-hand side. This is the driveway up to the back of the house. When you turn around the corner here on Marcourt, you can see the excellent foliage. There's also a pretty substantial change in topography here, the elevations of the houses. My client's property goes up, then it comes down where this foliage is. The road levels off and it continues to go down to the neighbors on the other side of Marcourt there. So when you look up and see the area where we're planning on building, it's right there. It's like, it's right there. You know, it's kind of impossible to see, at least in the summertime. So, so that's that part of it. And I will now run you through the plans. So again, we're back here showing where the area is. And I just, drove you down the road here and we looked at it from the sky. And so now I will get to the site plan and the floor plans. So here's the site plan. The driveway comes up, it rises up. Like I said, you can see the topography sloping off here, and that's where all that nice foliage is. All the trees are marked on the survey. And the area that we want to build in is in the back of the house. Like I mentioned before, we have 3 front yards. So we have 50-foot setbacks on these 3 sides, where normally without one of these sides being here, this might be a side yard and the setback would be 20 feet and I wouldn't be here tonight. But because we're surrounded by 3 roads, this 50-foot comes across actually through about 25% of the original house. By the way, the house was built in 1927, predating the zoning code by 1 year, which I found out this morning from our building inspector, Mr. Tom over there. Thanks, Tom. You helped me. So the house predated, and maybe when they saw this house being built, they said, "Oh my God, we need a zoning code." I don't, who knows what, but we're here now. So the existing house sets off about 36 feet from that Marcourt property line, and because I don't want to disturb views from the existing living space, which is right here out to this nice backyard, I brought the garage back pretty much as far as I could without interrupting any vistas out of here. And the depth of the garage is 24 feet, which is a pretty normal sized garage for some large cars that are there today, plus a little bit of storage. And that happens to just bring us a couple of feet, 3 feet closer to the property line than the current house. So this is the corner of the current house. This is the little side porch we'd like to build, which is basically open except for a roof structure above it. And this is the wall of the garage doors. So from this, I'll get to the elevations in a second, but this is basically a low eave here of 1-story height. And it's also a 1-story eave on the opposite side. But since this is the side that needs the variance, that's the one we're going to talk about. So like I said, it's low. We put some dormers in the roof to keep the massing down. We actually got ARB approval earlier this month. So they were very happy with the architecture we created. We also need the variance, for the generator. The entire electric system is set in this corner of the house right now. So a straight shot back would get us to a generator that's surrounded by the wall of the garage. And I need a couple of retaining walls back here to kind of set them, below the grade for the most part. So the neighbor who's back here would be less impacted by it. And it's kind of hidden, and it should also keep the noise down a little bit. So the floor plan is right here. We're going to come in through this new porch into a new entryway, because the only way to get in this house right now is up a whole bunch of stone steps on the outside, either through the front or around the back to a small porch. You could go through this garage, but the garage is kind of rough. The basement's kind of rough. The stair up is not compliant with any building code. So we want to build them a new way to get in the house here with a new stairway and lots of light, and bring them up into the space that's already finished in the part of the house. So 3-car garage, there's a generator, and I'll now walk you down through the other floor plans. Above the garage, we're like to have like an office space and another space for family entertaining. These days, with a lot of people working permanently from home, that's the case here. So we wanted to get a home office. lots of light fill, but still kind of separated from the daily goings-on of the family up at the main part of the house. This is that existing living area I was talking about earlier with the views out to the backyard. We are going to put a room back there, but it's basically a glass room with a lot of skylights to have, kind of like a three-season room. But this view is really important, and that's what really set this wall location, in addition to one other thing on the outside that I'll get to in a minute. Second floor. Oh, hold on. Yeah, nothing really on the second floor that needs a variance for sure. We're going to do a little closet space dormer out one of the bedrooms. But this is the roofline plan that you're going to see from the top. And elevation-wise, this is the view from Marcour or from the driveway view. These are the existing steps, stone steps going up to the front porch. This is our new side porch, the 3 doors of the garage, the low eave line I mentioned earlier, and just using a dormer effect to minimize the massing of the addition and keep it as minimal as possible. From the opposite side, again, it's a low eave, a low ridge to allow as much light in the western evening sun to come through here to the backyard as much as possible. This is the existing house. You can see what is a so-called garage, which cannot possibly use to park a car today in. So the need for the garage space is really critical here. They're parking out in the driveway, totally uncovered, and there's a lack of an entrance into the house to begin with. To do this addition, we are going to be removing an antiquated septic system, if you can call it that. And we already have we're on the way to getting a Board of Health approval to do a new 5-bedroom septic in the front yard. The front elevation has minimal impact visually. This is the view of the side porch. It's just a low 1-story roof line and the dormer beyond it. And again, the rear elevation, we tried to keep the eave and ridge lines as low as possible to minimize massing. And another reason why I wanted to keep this wall back as far to the right here as possible is at the top of the stair, there's a beautiful landing, and then it goes up a couple of more stairs. We wanted to keep a window presence there, so we put this monumental oval window, and we just clearing the bottom of that window with this roof line to fit all of the features the Amsters were looking for in the house. So that's basically it. Happy to answer any questions and relook at something if need be.
How will the generator be powered?
Propane. I'm sorry. Yes, propane.
Propane?
Yes.
Where are the tanks?
No, underground.
Tim,
Oh,
we have natural gas. I wasn't sure if we were using that.
you have the natural gas at your house?
Yeah.
Natural gas.
Okay.
I changed my opinion.
I wouldn't be so sure, Tim. Is Con Ed's moratorium still in place for the natural gas? You may not be able to get it.
Do you have natural gas in the house now?
We have natural gas, and we put in a new service about 6 years ago when we moved in.
And is it adequate for an additional line to the generator?
Yeah, because I had planned on doing this back then, so I asked them to make sure everything was future-proof.
So you don't need any further approvals from Con Ed?
I don't think so, no.
I would be very careful, because the last I heard, they're changing their parameters to an individual service line just for generators, even though you have natural gas in the house. This may not be the case in your neighborhood, but there are neighborhoods where they're doing that. So I would be careful as to what it is, and then make sure you get the right specs to the town for it, whether it's going to be natural or propane.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, we're also under on all of our building coverage, development coverage, and FAR. No variances for any of those items.
What's the logic in going from no garage to 3 garage?
Okay.
Well, we'd like a garage. We figured we have 2 vehicles, and I was planning on getting a third work vehicle.
Plus, there's children that are going to be of driving age relatively sooner than you think.
Oh, don't tell me.
That's not good.
And what is going on with the old garage then?
What are we gonna do with it?
Yeah.
It's already being used as kind of a gym storage workshop area.
And there isn't a better location for the generator coming across the three-car garage to get to your electrical service?
But we'd rather not have it be closer to the road and the property line, that's for sure. There's also, I think there's a lot of rules with locations of generators with regard to where air conditioning equipment is. I'm gonna go back and share that again. Hold on a second. So over here, you've got existing air conditioning units, there's stairway, there's walkways here. This to me would not be, because this would be the only other possible place to put it. It doesn't seem ideal to me to have it be right where you're driving up, aesthetically, to the house, where this kind of is a nice place to bury it, and it requires less of a variance to do it there.
Where's your electrical panel?
Right here, in this corner. So it's a straight shot back to that generator.
So you'll have to run and how do you run it, through the ceiling of the garage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a heavier wire, that's for sure, and it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it's, to get the generators far less, to have the less impact on this family and the neighbors, I think it's worthwhile to do as we've shown.
I think you're right.
There's a significant amount of trees and shrubbery between my property and the neighbor's property.
Which neighbors are we talking about? On Marcourt or on Ridge?
Well, they're directly behind me, so where that line is on the top.
Ron Jay.
How high is the retaining wall around the generator?
8 feet.
Say again?
So the generator location will be roughly where you see my hand, that little hand right now, right about there. So you can see this is, I don't know which neighbor is even closer, this one on Ridge with all that buffer is here, or this one on Marcourt with all that buffer here.
Do any of those neighbors have generators?
I know the neighbor to the south of me has a generator.
That would be down here?
That's that house right there.
Okay, well, the more the merrier. Everyone will have one eventually.
You feel the mass of the new structure is consistent with those others in the neighborhood?
Absolutely. The ARB really liked it.
Carrie, is there anyone online to speak to this?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay. I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Yes?
Anthony Giardino,
Aye.
Marty Bonaparte,
Aye.
Howard Judge,
Aye.
Michael Mullins.
Aye.
Would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we grant Jason and Lee Amster a variance for, an 18-foot variance for, there's a front yard variance, 18-foot front yard variance for a garage, a 3-story garage addition and a porch. Three-car garage. Three-car garage.
Thought about a fair play.
Yeah, right. In addition, I make a motion that we grant a variance of 15 feet for a generator, which I think has been thoughtfully positioned on the property to minimize the line of sight. The architect has made an effort to reduce the mass of the building by keeping the ridge lines low, and the architectural review board has approved it. The granting of the variance will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. The benefits sought by the applicants cannot be achieved, probably cannot be achieved by other feasible method, given the topography of the land. The requested variance is not, well, it's somewhat substantial, but there's no other feasible location. It will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. There are no neighbors who are present or written or on Zoom who are in opposition. And it is not a self-created hardship in that they have one garage now that is unusable, and while the 3 is probably the new norm as well. Therefore, I move we grant the variance, 6 months to start, 1 year to finish. Tom, what about survey?
Yes, please.
Foundation survey?
Yes, please.
Okay. And then as far as foundation survey as well.
I'll second.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Thank you. You have your variance.
Fantastic. Thanks, you guys. Have a good evening.
Good night, Jim.
Good night.
Thank you, have a good night.
You too.
Rodriguez.
Hi, good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Ed Amicelli. I'm the engineer representing Jorge Rodriguez for 291 Croton Dam Road. And George is on as well with me. We're here to, actually, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see. Can you guys see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Yep, great. So we currently have a site here where we want to propose a small 12 by 20 pool, kidney shape, towards the west side of the property. The current lot is already small in size. It's a 1.01 acre in a R2A zone. So as you can see, we have Route 134 towards the south here, also at Croton Dam Road. The main two-story house sits here, and then we are proposing the small kidney pool to the west side of the house here. The current area that we're proposing is already a pavered area. It's already established with gates on each side of the area and enclosed by a stone wall along the property line here on the west side. Towards the north of the property is just yard with the septic field, as we noted here. So, the applicant wants to just propose a small pool here that comes out from his sliding door in this area where he can access it. As I mentioned, it's already a developed area. I'll zoom in slightly here. We already have a gate on each end that's enclosed. It's got a self-closing gate. And then we also have the sliding door coming out of the house that is equipped with an alarm system. So when you do open it, you do have the alarm system accounted for, since the pool is the enclosed area here. What we did find out when there was an addition put on the house back in around 2006. The stone wall, this deck you see here was part of that build, but what we realized, I guess it didn't make it to the as-built drawings. So we wanted to include that as part of the variance and approval process here for this little deck here, and then the stone wall, if required. We wanted to just bring it into this application. As you can see, we're already close to the property lines. So, the variance request here is the pool to the west end of the property line, which includes everything else. This lot and requirement with the R2A, we're already a non-conforming existing lot. So we already have tight constraints to where we could place this small pool to begin with.
Who are your neighbors on the west side?
So this is 289 Croton Dam Road. They recently just bought the house here. We know them very well. There's a driveway that separates the two homes, so that their driveway runs north-south, and then they have a two-story home to the west of that. So George is very friendly with them, and there's no issue there.
Have they seen your drawing and have they approved the location of the pool?
Yeah, so far we haven't heard any opposition or any issues. I know George, I don't know if you want to speak to that. I know the neighbor mentioned he had no issue with it as well. There is some shrubbery and separation between the two, which run up and down right before, there's about a 3-foot buffer and then their driveway. So there's, yep.
Yeah, actually sent in a letter saying there was no issue. He was in favor of it.
Did you consider any other location on the lot for the swimming pool? I know that it's most convenient to step out the door and have the pool right there, but did you consider any other location?
So we did, yeah, I mean, convenience is one. You have the septic field, which is in this area here, and then there's another dry well catch basin down here. So you would have to really be closer to the north end of the lot down here. But this drops in topography quite a bit. It's a downslope. And right back here is a little bit of a water course. So we didn't want to get too close there. So we wanted to keep it as close to the house as possible and within a developed area. And then we're also putting, all the pool mechanical equipment room below this existing deck, tucked in underneath in this area here.
You don't have any aerial views of the immediate neighborhood, do you?
I do have just Google Earth. Let me see if I can share it. So the applicant's house is here with the solar on it. This is 291. 289 is here to the west, also has solar on their roof. Here's their driveway. This is 289's driveway. And then you have a buffer of just some shrubs and planters here. And then here's the patio. Let's see if I can get that out of the way. Here's the current patio already there, and then here's the septic field in the back. So we're talking about trying to just put a small 12 by 20 kidney pool right here. It's about no more than like a 5-foot deep pool. It's more of like a soaker pool than anything.
Percentage basis, these are the most significant variances we've ever granted.
Well, it is pretty significant, but you have to take into consideration that a lot is like a postage stamp.
Yeah.
90% variance.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Is there anyone online that wishes to be heard?
I don't see any hands.
Okay.
Yeah. What are they doing? 2 acres on.
Any other questions?
No.
No. I move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Yay.
Aye.
Harvey,
Yes?
we close the public hearing. Are you in favor?
Oh, I didn't hear the vote being taken. Yes, I am.
That's good.
Howard Dubs,
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye. Who'd like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the application of Jorge Rodriguez for the side yard variance of 40 feet. And what are we looking for here? Side yard variance of 40 feet for the pool and for the patio and stone wall if necessary, but we don't need the stone wall variance, do we, Tom?
We do not need for the stone wall.
Just for the patio.
Patio and the pool only.
Okay, so the pool variance would be 40 feet and the patio variance would be 43 feet. I move that these be approved for the following reasons. The applicant is very constrained in the fact that he has a undersized lot, legally existing non-conforming lot that is only approximately half the required size in that neighborhood. It is also a long, narrow lot, which further restricts his options for improving his property. He's also restricted by location of a septic system that he has to avoid, and in the rear of the lot, a possible wetlands problem, which leaves only a very limited area for the construction of the pool and the patio. And the areas chosen are the best areas possible for the requested improvements to the property. By granting the variance, we will not create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. There is no other way to achieve the benefits sought except by granting these variances. While the variances are substantial, they will improve the living conditions and the enjoyment of the property by the homeowner without any detriment to the neighborhood. There'll be no adverse effect to the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And this is a self-created hardship technically, but the granting of the variance will, the factors, the benefit to the homeowner will greatly outweigh any detriment to the town. We'll need, it wasn't brought up initially, is the pool going to be a gunite pool?
Currently, it's most likely just going to be a fiberglass prefab drop-in pool.
Oh, okay, because then we don't, so what we'll need then is a final survey as to the location of the pool. And you'll have 6 months to start and 1 year to finish.
Would someone like to second?
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
No.
Anthony Giardina,
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Aye.
Howard Dubs,
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye. Thank you. You have your variance.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Do we go right to building at this point, or do we have to go through planning after?
First thing you do is take this picture off my screen.
Let me stop sharing. There you go. Thank you.
Come back to building.
Back to building. All right. Thank you, guys.
Have a good night.
I agree.
Have a good night.
Ramuno.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm the architect, Heike Schneider, here for Karen and Gary Ramuno, 132 Pines Bridge Road. We have an existing structure that is legally non-conforming, meaning the house as it is already 50 feet off the front property line, where 75 feet are required. And we are proposing a very small entrance addition, which is 108 square feet, 1 story. And yes, and we are requesting a 25-foot variance. I'm happy to show the existing house and also the site plan. Hold on. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the existing house. And as you can see, this is the existing entrance here. You see the walkway going up to the entrance. And the house as it is, the front part of the house is 52 feet off the existing property line. What we are proposing is even less than what the existing house does. So we are stepping 2 feet back. So I can show you what it is we're proposing. Hold on. So these are the neighbors, and they're really far away. But here is you can see let me just enlarge it a little. This is what we're proposing. So you see the outline of the existing house. You also see here the 52 feet off the property line. And this is our 1-story entrance addition. And here is the floor plan. So it's really just a minimal addition to give the Ramunos a real entrance, and actually also a small powder room. Because in the past, you would just fall right into basically what's here, the living space. So, so we're really just proposing a very small addition. And here's the front elevation. And at the same time, we're also trying to give the house a little nicer face from the front, and also a very nice entrance door. And here you see, hold on, this is what I wanted to show you. So this here is what we're doing basically. This is the side elevation, and you can tell that the main house is actually protruding more than what we are proposing here, the small addition. So yeah, and apart from the 25-foot variance from the front setback, we are complying with all the other requirements, the FAR and the building coverage and development coverage as well. So here are the calculations. Yeah, so that's really it. I don't know if you have any questions.
Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on this application?
I don't have anyone online.
Thank you. Questions?
Pretty straightforward.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second?
Second,
I'm sorry, someone say something?
I seconded.
Oh,
Excuse me? Giardino.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
aye. I'll make a motion. I move that the Ramuno application for a front yard variance of 25 feet to create a new entranceway and powder room in a legally non-conforming site be approved for the following reasons. This will certainly improve the appearance of the home, make it more livable. There will be no change in the character of the neighborhood. The benefit cannot be sought through other means. The requested variance is not substantial in this case. There will be no adverse impact on the physical environment. And the alleged difficulty is technically self-created. You'll have 6 months to start, 1 year to complete. We'll need a foundation survey prior to framing.
I'll second that.
In favor?
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye. Thank you. Have your variance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next is Osco.
You have to leave the meeting. We gotta go back.
Okay, good evening, Bill Spade. Good evening, everyone on the board. Nice to see you. I believe the,
Before you go on, Bill, is that a Zoom-created architectural background, or is that your
Yes,
actual?
it is.
Yes, it is. Okay, I thought.
That's from a famous painting of a circular mirror. Looks very realistic, I know, but it's all just an image.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. We have here a project where we need to get 3 variances, and I'll 2 front yard variances and one side yard variance. This is a property on 48 Ludlow Drive, and it's a 0.9 acre lot in the 1 acre zone. I will show you an aerial of the property here. The one in the center with the little blue dot on it. The house was constructed in 1937. It's a Cape-style house. So the first floor has the typical uses on it that included originally a bedroom, and then the second floor, currently very small bedrooms at either end, as is common in Cape-style houses. So one of the part of the project we're proposing is to enlarge those bedrooms. The current proposal in total, and I'll come here to the site plan, is to add a 1-story addition to the right end of the house for a family room and den. And as you can see from the site plan here, everything about that construction, which is what's hatched here, is conforming to the zoning. We are proposing to also then pop up the rear roof of the second floor to increase the head heights in those small bedrooms on the second floor. And so our addition on the back, in popping up that roof, the rear left corner of the house is 2 feet into the side yard setback at that second floor. As you can see, the existing garage is fully into the side yard setback and only 6.48 feet off of the side property line. So that was how the house was originally constructed. And you also see that the front of the house was constructed well near the front property line. Existing is about 41 feet to the present corner of the house. We are also proposing to build an entry portico over the front door, which right now has no cover over it. You enter right where I'm pointing the arrow here, and there is no roof over that area. So we're proposing a 5-foot deep portico over that door. Then there is a side door over here that was probably the original entry door. And there's a small porch there, but again, no roof cover for that side door. So we're proposing a roof over that as well, and a little extension of that porch, and so require a variance for the posts to support that roof structure. I'll show you, here's a quick couple of elevations, renderings of the addition. This is the one-story addition to the right end of the house with the side portico, and here is the new proposed front portico. Again, the posts and piers and the bit of patio that we're constructing are all needed, where we need the variances for those portions, but the one-story addition on the right does not need any variance. And I'll quickly show you, well, somewhere here was a rendering of the rear. I thought, here's a rendering of the rear, and this is the pop-up of the second floor on the rear. I think this is a better view of it. And it's this 2 feet of the corner of the second floor that's extending into the side yard setback. And so we need a variance to be able to complete that element on the rear. The ridge remains the same, and we're literally just popping up the roof to increase the space in those bedrooms. I'll show you a quick floor plan. Here's the first floor, showing the addition on the right end, and then the two porticos, the front portico and the side entrance portico. And then here is the second floor, the pop-up of the back of the house. And again, this rear left corner is what's extending into the side setback. I'll show you a couple of photos of the house here. Here's the picture from the front. The portico we're proposing to build over the front door is here. And as you can see, the existing garage, well into the side setback. And then this is another view of the front, sorry, and this is popping around. This is that side door that we're proposing to add the roof cover above and a post at this corner. And then our one-story addition is off to the right side here. Here is the view of the rear of the house where our one-story addition is going in this area. And then I think a final picture from the existing rear of the house where we're going to pop up this section of the rear to increase those bedroom sizes. So finally, the variances we need, and I'll go back to the top here. We need well, maybe better to show you from the site plan. Again, a front setback variance for the front porch of 21 feet. I'd actually like to request 22 feet total so that we make sure we're still good when we get to the as-built survey. So a 22-foot variance for the front portico. Our side entrance need a 3.5-foot variance. Maybe I'd say, could we make that a 4-foot variance, again, just for the sake of safety. And then our side setback for the second floor, needing a minimum 33-foot or 2-foot variance, and maybe request a 3-foot variance, again, just in case the conditions are different than what we understand them to be. So those three variants are the ones we're requesting. We believe they're not detrimental to the neighborhood. We tried to do the minimum variances required, but due to the condition of the house being tucked well up into the front corner and pre-existing into the setbacks, there was really no choice but to need the variances in order to do these modest elements. So that's my presentation. I think you're stunned, I guess.
Well, the obvious question is, do you give a design discount when doing double porticos?
Yes, we give a discount on everything we do. So it's a, we, you know, once we add one, yes, we have to add the other one, sure. But I think it's a, you know, hopefully everybody would agree it's an elegant addition to the house we're trying to achieve.
Good. Carrie, is there anyone who wishes to be heard on this application?
Don't see any hands up.
Okay. Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper.
In favor?
Dave Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye. Who'd like to make a motion?
I'll take it. I move that we approve the application of Megan and Evron Bosco for a second floor variance of 3 feet, so they can go up in that corner. A side entrance portico variance of 4 feet, and a front portico variance of 22 feet. This is a non-conforming home already. It was built many years ago, and this really will not substantially add to the non-conformity. The granting of the variance will create no undesirable change or character in the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. There's no feasible method other than the variance to achieve the benefit sought. The variance, for the most part, is not substantial. The variance, if granted, will create no adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. Although this is a set-created hardship, it is, I believe, not substantial. For those reasons, I move that we grant the application for these variances. 6 months to start, 1 year to finish.
Do we need any kind of surveys for those porticos, Tom?
Foundation survey?
We need foundation surveys to be provided to the building.
I'll second that.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper.
Yay.
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye. Thank you, have your variance.
Thank you very much. And I am staying on for the next application.
Cyphers? Cyphers?
And this is where we really get the 2-for-1 deal, Ken. It's hard to work these out, you know.
We're ready for you.
So, I believe the owner, Ron Cyphers, has joined us, so I will go through this application. This is to legalize some now existing conditions from a construction project that was done in 2007, for which the C of O was never finally obtained. And now in going through that process, discovering that there's a couple of items that didn't conform to the zoning setbacks, and so we need to legalize those. We think they're benign requests, but needless to say, we need to still obtain the variances. You see in front of you an aerial of the property. This is 35 Woodmill Road. It's the end property on Woodmill Road.
We don't see that, Bill.
Oh, gee, I'm sorry. I did not do the screen share. Yeah, it's right in front of me, so there. You can see it now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Great. Sorry. So here again, the aerial, the property in the middle here is the subject property, the end of Woodmill Road. This house was there was a house here originally built in 1969, thereabouts, as a one-story ranch. And then the current owners, Mr. Cyphers, did an enlargement of the property in 2007 was when the construction happened. They were planning it for a couple years before that. The house was enlarged at that time. I'll point out, you notice that there are really two driveways for this property. One going up the left side to go to the garages, and one going up the right side to a turning circle. Both of these driveways were built with the original house. So this condition of those two driveways was pre-existing, and we're going to talk about a development coverage variance, and it's principally because of those driveways that the development coverage was beyond what the limit was. I will note that it's a 9/10 of an acre lot. I'm sorry, look at the wrong notes here. It's a 2.4 acre lot in the 1 acre zone, and we are ultimately looking for 4 variances. I'll come down here. The original plan did not include had an existing pool. Sorry for my stumbling there. The original house included an existing pool and a structure over it, and I'll show you that plan in a minute. The plans for that alteration did not include a pad for pool equipment for the pool. And so in the process of doing the construction, a pool equipment pad was built into the side and rear setback of the property. And so that is two of the variances we need are for side setback and rear setback to this pool equipment pad. The third variance is a very minor setback variance, rear setback variance for the pool deck that was built marginally into the setback as well. And then the fourth variance is for development coverage, and I'll go through that detail in a moment here. I want to show you the plan that was approved back in 2005. The zoning board granted a variance for this plan, which was the substantial alteration of the existing ranch-style house and adding a second floor. As you see, there was the existing pool, and that was to remain. And there was also an existing enclosure around that pool, which got removed, and the deck at the time was to remain around that pool. This shaded box off to the side was a proposed shed at the time, as an enclosure. Since the pool structure was being removed, this was going to be a place for people to store things. The other item to point out from this original, this was a 2004 plan, was that the existing permitted development coverage is 14,015 square feet based on the lot area. The existing development coverage at that time was 21,108 square feet, and the proposed development coverage was 19,963. So they were actually proposing to reduce the coverage in total, and this plan was ultimately approved, so that at that time the coverage was approved at 19,963 square feet.
Do you know what the proposal was, Bill, in terms of how were they achieving that reduction?
Well, they show, can you see on the plan here, it shows a number of categories for, and labeling them as increases and decreases.
Okay.
So without going through each one of them individually, you can see several of them are labeled as decreases. So they took a substantial decrease, for instance, for the pool house, maybe I'd even point out here, I'm not sure how they took a decrease on the pool house because the pool patio was underneath the pool house. And so, I don't know, maybe that's they counted, they took that reduction under development coverage, and I'm not quite sure that was right. We also know that I also know that the area of the driveway is not accurate. So I believe that there were inaccuracies in how these numbers were calculated that didn't come out right. Be that as it may, it was still obviously above the permitted number, so the variance was granted for that. And obviously, once this construction was done, even if this had been done back in 2008 or whatever, somebody would eventually have to come back with an as-built survey and account for all of these things. So that's what we're doing, and we find now that the actual number, we have now an as-built survey from Joseph Link, and that's this other submission here, and we've done the actual computations of all of the development coverage components, and we're at the 21,638 square foot total. So that is the new increased variance we're requesting. So, just say at this point, I don't think these numbers at the time were quite calculated correctly. So I think the reduction might not have been accurate, and likely, where we've ended up is where the project would have ended up in any event. And again, to note that, and I'll point out one other thing, they show this existing pool to remain with this existing patio around it to remain. So I don't think that would have been any net reduction in the coverage, and yet they took a 1,638 square foot reduction for it. So one other item I'll point out that also affected the coverage, the prior driveway actually extended onto the neighbor's property, and you see it here. And that encroachment on the neighbor's property was the pre-existing condition from the original house. So that Mr. Cypers undertook moving the driveway to get it fully on his property. And so possibly some of the difference in the, well, I'll say it this way, their prior driveway calculation was something around 7,800 square feet. Our new driveway calculation is about 8,900 square feet. So we have a total of a 1,600 square foot increase that we're having to get this variance for. It would appear that 1,100 square feet of that is what the actual driveway is compared to what they showed the driveway being at that time. But it presumably they didn't count the portion of the driveway that was not on the property, as I showed on that other plan. And now the driveway's been relocated to be fully on the property. So possibly some portion of that 1,100 square foot difference might be to the fact that we're now calculating the full amount of the driveway, on the property. But, at the end of the day, we're requesting a 1,600, I think the total is 1,675 square foot increase in that variance to 21,638 square feet for the development coverage.
Bill, Bill, did you look at ways to get down to the acceptable development coverage?
As in the permitted development coverage?
Yes.
The only way I would note there's an existing tennis court. So between the house, which is essentially the same footprint as the original house, to reduce it would have meant removing, obviously a substantial element of some pre-existing item. So, for instance, one half of one of the driveways, or the tennis court. So to do anything to get anywhere near the required, coverage limit would have been removing, one of those items. So I didn't.
I guess what I'm asking is,
Go ahead.
was there any good faith effort made on the part of the applicant to mitigate what has gone on here, which is a little hard to follow, but
I'm sorry. Okay.
or understand?
Maybe I've done a poor job of explaining.
No, I don't think it's that.
Okay.
I just think there were miscalculations and other errors that were made, perhaps decisions made by the owner, I'm not sure.
Yeah, my only thought in response to what you're asking is the zoning board approved the configuration that's currently showing. And, with the two driveways, with the pool, with the existing tennis court, with the house. And so the 19,963 square foot development coverage, was approved. And so what's turned out is that with pulling the driveway fully onto the property, and B, what might have been some miscalculations of the square footages, the actual is 1,675 square feet more than what was approved back in 2005.
So Bill, it seems to me
Yes, sir.
the original approval was granted due to inaccurate information. And I don't know if more accurate information had been given at that time. We don't know what the outcome would have been. Would have been approval or disapproval? And the obvious question to me is, why do we need two driveways? Let's get rid of a driveway and make everybody whole again. I don't see the practical need for that second driveway with the loop in it, unless you can explain to me and convince me that that's an absolute necessity.
Well, maybe Mr. Cypers is on the call here, and he can talk about the functionality of that driveway. I think that's the main entrance driveway. That's where visitors and guests park and enter the house. The side driveway goes to the garages, which is 1 story below the front entrance. So I'll just point out, here's that circle drive for accessing the front door, and this is essentially at grade to the front entrance, which is here. And the garage driveway is again 1 story below grade, or below this first floor level.
So why couldn't a spur be taken off of that upper driveway closer to where the front door is, and a little parking area you put there, and a walkway to the front door, and get rid of all that coverage where the circle is, and that hammerhead, and that loop to the existing driveway? I'm hard pressed to see how that could be proved to be necessary.
All I'll say was pre-existing. That was built with the original house.
Well, that doesn't make it right, though.
Well, the zoning board approved this from before.
They approved it with inaccurate information.
Excuse me, members of the board, can you look down to the bottom section of the screen? They were proposing to remove a section of the driveway and the existing shed. They're still there now.
Well, that's what I'm driving at.
The portion of the driveway, Tom, just to be accurate, the portion of the driveway got removed, the shed still remains.
The shed is still there, okay.
Yeah, here, I'll show you that you can see it on the plan. That piece of driveway did get removed, the shed still remains.
Why did they keep I guess I understand the circular nature of that part of the driveway.
Yeah.
Why did they keep that spur or the section outside of the circle?
This
Right.
piece here?
Yes.
Again, as you see from the original plan, this this driveway extended over to the shed.
Yeah,
So there
no,
was
I got it,
a
yep.
portion removed. I think this is just a parking, this is where people parked to be out of the way of the loop of the driveway.
Isn't there an architectural solution to getting from the garage side of the house to the front door? I understand it's one level down, but isn't there an architectural solution that gets you there so that?
There are steps.
It's a steep grade there. You can see this zone, you see the grade lines, it's a steep grade. So, and I'll just point out that this is a rock outcropping all across here. So the reason this driveway looped around was to avoid all of this rock and hillside terrain to be able to bring some access up to the first floor level. So that's the reason this was done with the original house.
But it does
You know,
appear, but it does appear that there is a stone walkway with steps that get you from that lower elevation to the higher elevation to get to the front of the house. Is that not right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Just that it's a steep set of stairs to get up there, so not comfortable and certainly not an elegant setup. Again, it was a pre-existing condition. I would assume, I wasn't there, the board didn't raise an issue about those conditions and the coverages that were proposed at the time. And essentially, it's the same elements, just, that were approved at that time. And I think the large portion of the current overage was because the driveway was pulled fully onto the property. And the portion that, was off the property, which probably wasn't counted at the time, is now being counted. I just don't think that there was ever raised before a question of considering having to reduce some portion of it. There was a portion that was suggested and that was done. And obviously, since that wasn't ever a part of the program before, the owner, had no plan to further reduce any of the, any of these existing elements.
Well, I'm going to speak up, and my colleagues here can shout me down, but I'm thinking we would like you to leave this evening, speak to your client, and see if there isn't some way of re-examining the development coverage to see what you can do. I understand that we're revisiting something that was approved decades ago, but again, I don't understand how we got here where we are today from there. I don't understand the unintentional, let's say, misrepresentation of some of the calculations. And I'm not equipped to make suggestions as to whether or not it has to do with the driveway, the tennis court, sheds, or some other elements on the property, but I think there's something that the applicant needs to consider. And again, that's just my own opinion. The rest of the board may feel differently.
I agree with the chairman.
As do I.
I would like to hear from the applicant.
Ron, are you available?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So, the ultimate construction that we completed and then the surveying and measurements that were updated and provided recently, I would earnestly hope that we can convey to the board that there was never any, say, subterfuge intended, nor existing. The design, the original design of the two driveways was part of the concept of the redevelopment that we thought would be, a very attractive part of the whole site of the property. The circle between the and the walkway to the front door, as Bill described, is functional for, say, a visitor coming to the house. The little cutout between, at the tennis court is functional as well for, as Bill said, someone that comes and parks on that side and then, pulls their car out of the way of the circle for another car to come up, is again part of the, say, functionality of the design. And then I think maybe some of the calculations that are part of the number today is a function of perhaps having built a slightly more expansive patio area around the pool, that we enter the pool from the ground level, and there's a patio that surrounds it. It is bigger than what was on the original plan. But again, I think we had all the two driveways originally, and they currently provide function both on the left side for the garages and on the right side for visitors and people coming to the front door. So to remove one of the driveways, to me, would be a hardship as the property, as we live and feel the property today. Sorry, I can put my video on so you can see my face. Hi, everybody. So again, this, and part of this is, I think, a function of, we didn't do the measurements right away and get our C of O right away, and come to you right away, but there was never anything untoward. It was just an omission at that time. It was a credit crisis and whatever. So, and I would also maybe conclude by saying that the actual development coverage that is measured is nominally greater than the development coverage at the time of the original application. We thought we would be reducing it, but in reality, it's roughly the same. I believe it's 600 feet above what it was when we made our original application. So I hope that helps the board with its, understanding of where we are today versus where we were when we made the application, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have to help.
Well, I just want to speak to one element of what you mentioned. And
sure.
To the extent the development coverage variance that was granted for 19,963 square feet.
Right.
And it sounds like what you've just said is that the intention was that was coming down to get to that point.
Right.
And that now it's increasing by not the 600 that you mentioned, but 1,600.
530 square feet.
Above what it was as built or as covered originally. Right.
Well, can we clarify what the development coverage was prior to the variance being granted in on December 19, 2005? Do we know what that was?
Here, I think you see it on your screen there.
21,108.
So that was pre-existing.
Correct.
And our current is 21,638, so 530 square feet more than that.
What was the development coverage that was approved at the time of the last approval by the zoning?
That other number right there, the proposed 19,963.
So they should have been asking for a variance of 538 feet more at the time the original variance was granted. That's what the issue is.
No, honestly, I don't know that, that's, I've gone through the plans that were available at that time, and I had a hard time trying to figure out where all of these individual numbers came from. So, I just don't understand, there's not a plan that accurately showed the derivation of these numbers. This was on an architect's plan, and this is what the variance was based on. So I couldn't find how these numbers got all calculated. So I can't say that, but I do believe that the driveway number was not what's shown here, even at that time. So I think the driveway somehow got undercounted then. Anyhow, I don't know if that helps, but these were the numbers. I think ultimately what Mr. Cypers is saying is that the current proposal is 530 square feet more than what was existing from the original house.
Right.
And that as a percentage increase over that time is a very minimal number. And what it seems to be is that there are just miscalculations as to what got to the 19,963 at that time. And again, had what we're doing now been done in 2009, that we would be at this same point. It would be, the board approved this, these numbers somehow weren't accurate because now a surveyor has done all the calculations, and the reality is instead of going down, the number went up a marginal amount.
But Bill, you think the number went up because they're currently changing portion of the driveway that used to be not counted?
Correct. I couldn't I couldn't find a way to calculate it to be sure that didn't correlate, right? They're clearly, they undercounted the driveway, so that the driveway on this plan, and I'll slide back up here. So even with this piece that's off the property, I still couldn't get it to 7,500 square feet and then 7,800 square feet. They show an increase in the driveway, and I think even, I'm not sure why, because, this piece of the driveway at the top was expanded to get to the new garage setup, but they also reduced driveway by this amount down here.
Right.
So this, the reduction seems to be larger than this increase, and yet they show.
We did increase the driveway a little bit at the garage to make sure that we had a proper turn-in into the garage.
I guess, right. I'm sorry, I'm missing a piece here. There was a existing detached garage here that this driveway went to.
Correct.
So
we removed that.
This loop around here is an add-on.
We removed that separate garage and brought it under the house on the left side.
Right. Well, anyhow, I'll just say I spent quite a bit of time trying to find the derivation of all these numbers, and I couldn't come up with it. And I just think that the architect who did it at the time somehow just didn't do it accurately, but that was what the zoning variance was based on. And we do now have a surveyor's as-built, accurate, documentation of the coverages.
Because the hour grows late,
Yeah.
I am going to suggest that the board more carefully examine the application and that the applicant leave here this evening with the task of attempting to mitigate this 500 square foot development overage in one of the two driveways or someplace else on the property.
Right.
If there's a member of the board who feels differently, please speak up. We do have other cases that we do have to hear this evening, and I don't feel that we can get where the applicant would like us to get to this evening.
I agree. We should postpone until next meeting and give everybody a chance to re-examine the case. And I think that the architect and applicant should put their heads together and look for whatever reasonable method they could find to reduce whatever coverage they could reduce. Not necessarily getting us back to compliance, but getting us to a point where everybody would be a little more comfortable with it.
Okay,
I think that's a good idea, actually, because there doesn't seem to be any rush to approve this. If it's not like something, new construction is going to be done. So I think it'd be better to take a closer look.
Okay.
We'll do as you wish.
You just need a motion
As
to
you suggest.
adjourn the hearing.
I make a motion, we adjourn this hearing
To when?
until the next meeting.
I'll second.
Chairman Sam Cooper,
In favor?
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte, Howard Dubs,
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye. We will see you next month, Mr. Cyphers and
Thank you.
Mr. Spade. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay.
Next is Hoffner.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Scott Hirschson, I'm the architect of this application here tonight with Neil Alexander and the homeowner Jeff Hoffner. You're here for one variance. It came to be after extensive due diligence on behalf of my client with a civil engineer, who I believe is on the Zoom with us. Landscape architect and founder myself. We are on 35 Heathcote, a 1 acre lot. We have an existing 5-bedroom house. We are building, as I said, after extensive research. If you want to pause for a second just to show us the streetscape, it's, as you might be familiar with Heathcote, it does back to Cowden. We are, as I said, 1 acre, so it's a rather regular configuration of all the houses. The civil engineer and landscape engineers had identified that our existing septic could only exist in one location at the direction of the Department of Health. And so I was tasked with creating an addition of 369 square feet for a kitchen and a family room. And we have an accompanying patio that moved from 641 square feet to 670 square feet, that then leads down to our new 20 by 40 gunite pool. In total, that pool is 30 feet off the rear yard, and our application is for a variance from 76 feet to 24 feet for the code compliant pool. Did you have anything more to add, Jeremy?
Why is it not possible for the pool to be pulled closer to the house?
So that's an excellent question. We are at our size, the 20 by 40. That is as close as we could get it with maintaining distance for the kids to be able to navigate around the pool, as well as having the patio that we previously had as well.
How
I'll jump in a little bit. So for the record, it's Neil Alexander. I'm a partner at Cuddy and Fader in White Plains. We should have given this to you sooner, but I went off of Westchester GIS here, and I think this is really a salient piece, and I don't know how to get it. I don't know if anyone in the public would want to see this, but basically it's the Westchester GIS of Heathcote and Cowden, and what it shows in yellow is our property, and this informed a lot of our decision making, as you can see. So the property to the north and the property to the south are protected by obviously the side yard setbacks, but what really gets salient here is the lack of detriment to the property to the rear, because you have actually part of the Cowden open space, and then you can see back another house. And so I went also onto Westchester GIS today and prepared, just using their distance tool. So it's about 438.2 feet to the corner of their pool patio, to our property line. So essentially, as we were doing the layout and trying to make things work, we realized that there was no detriment or effect to any of our neighbors, and as we worked with the design. And I don't know if Jeremy Renato is actually on the participant list right now, and he can get into this a little bit better as our site civil, but we had the existing septic system. We tried a layout, because actually the homeowner actually wanted a side yard layout, and which isn't necessarily as keeping as much actually in the character of the area where, as you saw from the aerial before, most of the pools were truly behind. But there's actually, across the street, there's a wetland, so there's a 100-foot setback. So we started running into the problem of septic near wetland, and the health department on top of it also with the slopes. Basically the health department was like, you're not going to be able, that's just not going to work. That's a non-starter. And Jeremy could fill in a little bit more if he's on the line, but that's the summary of it, is that there was a desire originally to put in the side yard by the homeowner. Health department frowned on that. And then we basically went into a chase of laying out a reasonable design with a scaled down pool to 20 by 40, and trying to right size the project so it only needed, sorry, got it far away from the microphone, so it only needed one variance, right there. So we meet all the other setbacks, we meet the coverage, we meet the FAR, we meet all the other aspects. So the ask is really to go a little further towards essentially a lot of open space, and much of which will not be developed. That Cowden lot is part of the open space area.
What is the depth of the apron on the Heathcote side of the pool?
Depth of the apron.
Or I guess you're calling it patio, but that surrounds the pool?
It's probably about, I would estimate it to be 36 inches at the greatest. It's wide enough for one person to walk safely around the pool.
You're talking about
And then
this area?
one other aspect,
This is 20 feet on the side.
So one other aspect we also did was we made a FOIL request for recent, for the past 5 or 6 years of your setback variances for pools. And so as we were trying to right side it, and we saw there was one for 33 feet, there was a bunch for in the 20s and the 14. So we tried to make it inside and not be a greater ask than you've given to others in recent memory, and try to really just as I think Scott started with, the client really did a lot of due diligence, and we really tried to make this a very reasonable ask while understanding that obviously a pool is a luxury in of itself too.
I just addressed that comment 1 second. You said you looked back at our prior variances.
Yes.
Every case that we hear is individual and unique. So I'm not saying you're not going to get this tonight, but I wouldn't use prior variances as a way to think you're going to get a variance.
Well, I was thinking about Knight v. Melkin, which, and I wasn't trying to lean in on that. I was really trying to, rather than saying you must, I was actually doing it the other way.
It's like the financial world, where prior results do not guarantee future results when you make an investment.
Well, I actually don't, I don't really want to get into Knight v. Melkin on a Court of Appeals, but I think that's exactly what Knight v. Melkin actually stands for, is the notion that unsubstantially similar facts. Sorry?
You're telling us we have to give you this
No,
variance?
what I'm saying is,
Well,
that's
that's
not
already
what
in
I'm
there.
saying, no. Gentlemen, I offered the notion of your prior precedent for the limited purpose of saying that we looked at your prior precedent, so we didn't ask for something that was beyond what others had asked for. We right-sized ourselves based upon your prior actions, because that is what jurisprudence and prior precedent does, is it helps you understand where the prior iterations of this board's head was at, so that way our ask could be appropriate. That is why I put it in there. I didn't put it in as a lean-in, as a comment. I put it in for saying we did some due diligence and intelligence. That's what I was saying.
Well, I'm not saying I'm against this, because quite frankly, I'm for this application.
No, and I don't want to argue the legal point. You have counsel here who can tell you.
I don't want to argue the legal point either, but
Can I
I don't want to give anybody the false impression that we're bound by what we've done before.
Can I address you? I'm Jeff Hoffner, I'm the homeowner. I mean, just from my perspective, my kids have been asking for a pool for a long time. I really want a pool. There are so many constraints.
Didn't they start with a puppy?
We do have a puppy. We have a 3-year-old puppy. My 1 acre lot, and it's super flat if you know the area. You'd think by looking at it, you could almost do anything that you want within the realm of the setbacks. Right now, the septic is on the left side, but there's an ever so gradual grade down to the right side of the property, and I might have been able to avoid any type of ask for a variance, except for the fact that the Board of Health wouldn't grant, the septic in that location without a 50-foot setback from that.
Yeah, I would tell you, I don't think there's anyone sitting here before you tonight that's questioning the location of the pool.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
This is,
Okay.
I don't think.
We'll sit down.
Well, look, I understand the Billy Bean reference before, and I get it. But, so I think we understand the application. I think we're able to go from here. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No. If you
No.
have any other
Okay.
questions for me on the architecture or the layout, I'm available to respond to them.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? Is there anyone online who would like to speak to this application? Okay.
I'm just here from engineering if you guys had any questions that weren't answered or you did need answered as far as the layout or design or septic sizing, anything like that, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. I think we're okay. I move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper.
In favor?
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs. Michael Holmes.
Aye. Who'd like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. Make the motion that the application of Jeffrey Hoffner and Amy Hoffner for a 25-foot rear yard setback for the construction of a new swimming pool be approved for the following reasons. The applicant has carefully chosen a location and due to constraints with septic and other reasons, the location chosen is the only reasonable place to put this pool. The rear yard of the applicant backs up onto a protected site so that it will not encroach on any residential areas in its near vicinity. The granting of the variance will not create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood.
I'm not looking at, I can do this.
The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by any other method than granting of this variance. There will be no adverse effects on the physical environment or conditions in the neighborhood. This is technically a self-created hardship, but the factor of self-creation, the benefit to the homeowner is far outweighed by any perceived detriment to the neighborhood or to the town. As we always do with a gunite swimming pool, we will require that a survey be made before the gunite is shot to be sure it's in its correct location, because you're not going to be able to move it after the gunite is shot. If those things would be agreeable, you would have 6 months to start, 1 year to finish. And we also need a final survey upon completion.
I second.
Shannon Cooper,
In favor.
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye. Thank you. You have your variance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One more.
Leanne Conti Canseco? Leanne. How do you say that? Leanne, I said.
Hi, are you here to speak on the Meehan application?
Yes, I am Michelle Gunn.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Okay, so we have a property on 315 Millwood Road in Chappaqua. The property owner is Mrs. Meehan, that has employed us to install a generator and with gas hookup. It's a rental gas hookup. What we'd like to do is the generator placement seems to be, well, it is extremely close to the property line. It is actually behind her barn, which is an ideal placement for her because it's out of the sight of any of the neighbors. And it also allows us to trench all of the electrical and the propane lines through territory that's not all rocky. We'd like to apply for a variance for her. The barn seems to already be pretty much within the setback. So it would just be behind the barn where there's already a pre-existing concrete pad that we were about to repair. If that, pleases you guys, if it's okay. When it comes to any kind of neighbor, there's screening behind the barn that's pre-existing, and we're actually, one of the neighbors behind her is one of our clients, and he's sort of voiced to us, which I'm not sure if he's here tonight, but that it would be no problem to him.
His name is Randy Catchis, and even from his property, he can't see, he can just about make out the barn. The generator would go right next to the barn.
Here.
The barn today would not be allowed because
I mean, just to be clear, we're not only concerned with the existing neighbor, but neighbors for the rest of time. And the location, in choosing the location, I understand how it's optimal for the applicant. How is it optimal for the rest of the community? Being on the property line?
We can't hear you.
Nick, don't speak.
Am I still there? Are we still together?
You're back, yes.
You're back, go ahead.
If you know the property, you come up a very steep hill. The main residence on the left, you drive straight up to the barn, make a left-hand turn, and continually going up a high hill to the top of the mountain. Any of the two neighbors that are up there, if the generator was any place other than near behind the barn, they'd be able to see it, even with aggressive landscaping. The occupant saved up for 3 years to install the generator. Any other location, not only would it be unattractive and not aesthetically pleasing, but it would be tremendously more expensive going through the driveway, blacktop, rock that is you're not able to penetrate. So the generator near the barn in any location, back, side, is the best location aesthetically. And I live my life, and the reason I'm dying broke is because I see everything aesthetically. This is the best location aesthetically and physically for the occupant. And I think if the board was walking the property, they would agree with us.
Where's your electrical panel?
The electrical panel is at the circuit breaker, at the property line pole.
Top of the what?
There is a property line telephone pole where the meter is. That's where the transfer switch is. From the transfer switch, it feeds up to the main house and it feeds the barn. It goes in two directions. If you're looking at the plot plan, as you come up the driveway, almost directly across from the main residence is the property line pole. That's where the meter is, and that's where the transfer switch would go. By putting the transfer switch there, it's able to feed the barn, and it's able to feed the main residence.
And how will it be powered?
By propane.
Where are the tanks?
The owner, if she can afford it, will bury a tank because she's aesthetically minded, or above ground tanks that would be behind the barn that cannot be visible from anyone. There's an existing concrete pad there that I guess they would sit on.
Excuse me, the tanks will not be allowed behind the barn. They have to be 10 feet from a property line.
Then on the side of the barn.
Yeah, we put on the side of the barn and the front of the barn.
Whatever the board approves, I know that the propane tanks have to be 10 feet off the property, and an above ground tank can go against the house, a buried tank 5 feet away. But whatever the occupant can afford, she'll do. But she is very aesthetically minded, as I am, and I believe that what we're suggesting is nothing that would offend neighbors or the board.
Well, you're speaking for the board now. I don't know that we've approved variances of this size for the installation of a generator.
Oh, and it's not a large generator. It's one of the air-cooled that it looked like a steam truck. It's very small. But actually, her portable generator that failed 3 years ago was more offensive looking than the actual future air-cooled generator.
Tom, have you seen specs on the generator?
Yeah, I have, and my question is, how do you plan to service the generator being 1 foot off the property line when you need 3 feet of clearance to service the generator?
Oh, it's a flat piece of property. There's no issues with servicing. Matter of fact, where we're proposing it would probably be the best place for any serviceman, even in a nor'easter with a foot of snow on the ground.
Right.
Any other place, you'd be walking up steep hills. The property is not flat. The main residence is probably 15 feet higher than the driveway.
Yeah.
I think what the problem is that if it's only 1 foot off the property line and you need 3 feet to service it, that means whoever services this generator has to go onto the neighbor's property, which may not be a problem today if the neighbors are compatible, but who knows who's going to live where in the future.
Well, actually, on the side of the, if the generator is on the side of the barn, there's maybe 50 feet. Behind the barn, where it would be most aesthetically pleasing, there's about 8 feet, I believe. And where the property line is, it's not like there's a fence or anything. There's much property.
There could be a fence in the future.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but somebody still has to step on somebody else's property to service the generator if it's only 1 foot off the property line. And aesthetically, you may be right, and I don't dispute that. But for future harmony, let's say, in the neighborhood, I think it would be best to put that generator on the side of the barn where you can get your 3 feet clearance all around.
I agree with you totally. And from a point of future neighbors or future problems or future surveys, on the side of the barn, again, would be aesthetically pleasing, and would be more functional for any serviceman and any neighbor not being offended that it encroached on their property if they had a survey.
We could do some screening if she wants in front of.
Excuse me, I need to interject. You're doing a Generac generator?
Yes.
They can be placed 18 inches off the building, and the building is 9.9 feet from the property line. Your generator pad needs to be no more than 3 feet wide, so you could be 5 feet off the building and still have 4 feet of clearance.
That's what I felt, but I was following the information that your coworker was saying. I didn't agree with it, but I just wanted to agree. The back of the barn is the best location, and it's not on the neighbor's property for servicing or for setbacks, but it is encroaching on the property line. On the side of the barn, less aesthetically pleasing, but still functional, and a couple of forsythias would hide it indefinitely.
The south side of the barn, is 7.6 feet away, so you would even be closer to the property line if you're 18 inches off the building.
No, the side of the barn.
The side of the barn has a complete amount of property, maybe 50, 60, 70 feet. It looks like 120 feet.
Yeah, it's
All right, so you're on the north side of the barn.
not
Yeah,
towards
sorry.
the other property.
No, he's not.
I'm sorry, did you guys want me
It's on
to
the
share?
east side of the barn.
He's saying here.
Some pictures of the barn and the setbacks, the front, back.
I'm not seeing it.
Are you suggesting you're on the north side of the barn and you can be further in on the property?
Yes.
I'm gonna share this screen with you. Okay, you guys see that?
Okay, that's not what we have on our proposal.
Yeah, I think the first one that you have that I feel like this was submitted, the proposal was, or the proposed location was in the back where that rectangle is.
That's what we have, yes.
Okay, so this was an original that Mark had drawn up, and I said, I think we need this for our meeting today. So here, we can move this, towards the front, towards the back. It's on the north side, we're well in any kind of problem with this property line, which is the southern property line.
I think the code says 30 feet off the property line. She doesn't have 30 feet anywhere. But on the side of the property, on the side of the barn, which would be, I believe, the north side. Is it the north side?
Yeah, that's the north side.
If you're coming up, it would be on the left side. If it was sitting there today, nobody would notice it. It would look like a little steam truck trunk out of the way. And I don't believe a neighbor or a board member would be offended by it at all. And
I'm sorry. I only heard bits and pieces of that. I think at one point, one of the two of you made the suggestion that the generator could be shifted to the left, to the corner of the barn. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. And she has 121 feet of property on that side.
Okay. So let's assume for the time being that you've shifted it, and that's what your application is requesting.
Yes, I thought that's, we amended the application, putting it on the side, but I'm not sure exactly what took place in the last couple of months.
Also, do you guys want to?
Can we print up a picture of the barn? We have the front side visual from all points.
If you move the generator to the northwest corner of the barn, how far off the property line would you be?
I think 110 feet.
That can't be true, because that's telling me that the barn's 110 feet long.
How wide is the barn?
It's the rear line you're worrying about, not the front yard.
There are four sides to the barn. The back of the barn, I don't know if it's east or west, only has about 8 feet. I can't read exactly. On the street side of the barn has what looks like 7 feet. But on the what appears to be the north or south side of the barn, it says 121 feet to the property line.
That is the length of the property.
That's the length of the property line.
You're only about 10 feet to the property line where you're showing the generator now. If you move the generator to the west, to the front edge of the barn, what is the dimensions of the barn?
I'm looking at your survey, it says 121 feet.
That's the length of the property. What is the dimensions of the two-story barn? Is it 20 by 25? What is the dimensions?
Barn's about 30 by 20. I want to say it's about 30 by 20.
On the survey, it doesn't give the exact amount, but it looks, it's a two-car, so you're probably 22 by 32.
Yeah, it's gonna be at least 37.
Sir, I suggest you redo this and come back, and we will process you next month.
Yes, I think we should come back next month, have the applicant prepare a better drawing and come in with a better explanation as to what they're doing.
We're happy to do that, but if you look at the photographs we have and what I have on the screen here, I'm not sure what you show, but it shows on the best location where she has 121 feet, and it's in the middle of the barn in between two windows.
But we don't have the exact dimensions. We want to get the exact dimensions. We have to put it in the application and the approval if we grant it. So you need to come back and give us better information.
Okay, well...
you want you guys think if we put it towards the front? Because that's what I'll work on in terms of dimensions.
Well, it's not the front, it's the side.
On the side of the barn, looks like the right place. Just put it...
Perfect place.
Right, further away from the rear property line. That's.
Yes.
Okay, the front of the barn, and we are submitting to the building department, or we're coming back to you guys with zoning?
You're coming back to the building department, please.
Okay. Okay.
We'll do this weekend to give you all the information that you need. Thank you so much for your time.
Need a motion just to adjourn to the next, November meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn this matter until the next meeting.
I'll second.
I would tell you guys
In
to
favor.
drive safe. I would tell you guys to drive safely, but I guess it's not necessary, right?
Is there any member of the public here for this? I don't know if you're,
I'm in favor of tabling.
nobody in the audience?
No.
All right, thanks.
Chairman Kevin Cooper,
In favor, yes.
In favor? Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye.
I make a motion that the board adopt the meeting minutes for the July 28th meeting.
And I'll second.
Chairman Kevin Cooper.
In favor?
Anthony Giardina.
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte.
Aye.
Howard Dubs.
Aye.
Michael Nolan.
Aye.
Thank you, Carrie.
Make a motion, we adjourn.